I will be emailing you the replay of this within the next 24 hours. And I just want to say thank you guys for coming here to the masterclass. I honor you and I welcome you, and I'm excited to be here with you guys. And I hope that I not only give you great information today, but that this information leads to transformation, because that is the most important thing when it comes to our relationships. And so this is our 4 phases to stop divorce and attract your spouse back. What I'm going to share with you guys today is radically different than anything else out there. It's not therapy. This is not counseling. This is a proven process that's helped save thousands of marriages to date. So I'm excited to share with you guys our latest discoveries in how to turn a marriage around. This is for you, especially if your spouse is saying, I want a divorce. I'm having an affair. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I don't want to talk to you about the relationship. If that's you, you're in the right place, because we at High Thrive Coaching are the ICU for marriages. And we're here to give you those solutions so that you can see that transformation in your relationship as fast as possible. Does that sound good? All right, awesome. Now I want to make sure that this is a dialogue, not just a monologue. So the best way to do that is through the chat. Use the chat, do the exercises I'm going to give with you. The more that you give me, the more I can give you. So let me know what questions you have. What is your situation in your relationship? Any questions about the process as we go through it? Let me know, because we're here to help you. And my team members and I will be helping in the chat. So we will be answering all of your questions today. All right. So what we're going to discover today is our proven process here. What to say, what to text your spouse, and what to do to get your spouse to stop pulling away from you anymore. The one thing that you're probably doing right now that is actually backfiring, and you may not even know it. How to flip the script and get your spouse to want to be with you. I'm talking like eager, craving, chasing after you. How good would that be, right? And of course, how to avoid $30,000 or more in divorce fees while keeping your marriage intact. In fact, it's going to be even better than it was. So who are we? You may be familiar with High Thrive. I see some familiar faces here. I also see I do need to record. You were right, Diego. My apologies. I thought I got it, and it's not. Okay. All right, I'm going to backtrack just a tiny bit because I've got the recording going officially right now, but welcome to our masterclass showing you the 4 phases to stop a divorce. And we're going to show you how to flip the script so your spouse is the one chasing after you. Now, you may be familiar with High Thrive, you may be brand new to us, but who are we? So 8 years ago, Mark and I came together to create High Thrive Coaching because we knew something needed to change. As you guys are familiar with, like, divorce rates are increasingly on the rise, right? Despite there being more self-help books, more podcast information, all claiming to have the solution. And we saw that none of that was really working. And so we created this scientifically proven 4-step process to stop divorce and flip the script so your spouse is the one actually chasing after you. That is exactly what we help our clients do. Not only do we use this exact marriage in our own marriages, like I've personally been married 17 and a half years, Mark's been married 18 years, and this has helped save our own marriages when they were really struggling. But now we are the most sought after marriage experts in the world. We are best-selling authors. We have recorded over 150 podcast episodes. We have a Facebook group with a thriving marriage, has over 40,000 members. And we're here to show you how you too can turn your marriage around. So who is this training for? I'm going to launch a poll for those here on Zoom with me live. And I want you to weigh in and let me know, what kind of a couple are you? Are you couple A, where you had divorce filed, threats of divorce, your spouse wants a divorce, separation, they're unwilling to work on the marriage? Couple B, your spouse is having an affair, maybe multiple affairs, or you have had multiple affairs. Couple C is where your spouse won't talk with you about the marriage. They won't open up to you. You don't have a lot of communication going on. So weigh in on the poll. I see a lot of you guys. I see some of your comments coming in. I love it. Awesome. Says she's not attracted to you anymore. I love that question. Joey will definitely answer that for you for sure. Stuck in the friend zone. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing over there. Some of you were saying, I'm several of them, I'm multiple of them, I'm all of them. That's fine. Just what is the primary problem that you are facing right now? Thank you guys for weighing in. A and B. Gotcha, Hillary. All right. So I'm going to share our results here. We have 57% of you are couple A with divorce filed. Your spouse wants out. 22% no trust affairs and 22% no communication. Beautiful. I will go deeper into all of those today. Now, I want you guys to start with an exercise here. I want you to ask yourself these two questions, okay? First, where do I want, getting tongue-tied, where do I want my marriage to be 3 months from now? Put this into the chat because I want to see where you want to go. If you could go anywhere in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months with your spouse, where would you really love for your marriage to be? And second, how will it feel to have your spouse in love with you again, wanting to work on the relationship, wanting to spend time with you, wanting to improve themselves so they become a better spouse for you, wanting to spend time with you? How good would that feel? And let me know over in the chat. For some of you, I want my husband to be back home. It would be fantastic, loving me like he used to, divorce stopped. I want the divorce to not be filed, and we are planning on Christmas together. I love that. Amazing to be reconciled. Exactly. Beautiful. Back to where we were when we first started dating, blissful open communication, my husband to move back home and commit to fix things. I would feel incredible to recapture those feelings, start fresh in love with each other back home, back to having conversations and having her pull back from the divorce, starting over to where we were in high school. Yeah, I think I read that one. Take all the anxiety, wondering, and uncertainty away. Love that, Donna. It would feel amazing to have him back home with me again. I want him not to leave and to choose to work on our pairing, back to having sweet conversations. Beautiful. So this is really, really powerful. In fact, we've seen that the most distinguishing factor between couples who save their marriage and couples who don't is your commitment to creating that relationship, deciding what you want and being committed and willing to do what it takes to get there. And yes, you can do this on your own. That's a bold statement, but I can prove it. So you have more influence in your relationship than you probably realize. And you can do it when you do it in the right way, which is exactly what I'm going to share with you guys today. So when you make that level of commitment and you decide this is where I want to go, then the way or the how to get there will show up. It will. I've had to make those kind of gut level decisions in my own life to save my life, to save my baby's life. Some of you may be familiar with my personal story of going through cancer while I was pregnant with our 6th baby. And I had to decide, am I going to listen to the doctors? Am I going to listen to the naysayers? Am I going to listen to the voice of fear? Or am I going to tune in and listen to the inner part of myself that knows what's true for me? For me, I wanted to know I wouldn't live with regret, that I would give this every opportunity to succeed. And so there might be something inside of you that's saying, I don't want to live my life with regret. My marriage is important to me. I want to make sure I give it every chance possible of working out so I can look back and say, I have no regrets. So if that's you, then you're in the right place. And the way to get there is going to be shown to you right now. So these are our 4 phases to stop a divorce. Okay, I'm going to use this flowchart because this is actually proprietary. We have been helping, like I said, tens of thousands of couples over the last 8 years, and we are constantly developing and refining our process. And this is what we found to be the most effective method out there. And so I'm going to go deep into each one of these phases. And this is really the high overview here of this 4-step process, okay? We're going to do the assessment phase, which is about planning and mindset, resistance to treatment, why your spouse is resistant and how we're going to use that to your advantage, how to have them hit the pause button so they stop pulling away from you more, and then going deeper into this really specific and custom process for exactly where you are at in your relationship so that it can heal fully and that your spouse wants to be with you. They want to work on the relationship. That's what we're going to help you do. So, you guys excited? All right. Having her love means the world to me. Beautiful, Norman. Let's get you there. So, phase 1 is the assessment phase. And this is where you will know what's really going on and what to do about it. A big mistake that a lot of people make is that they don't know why their spouse is really leaving. In fact, more than half of the people we talk to each week aren't really certain why their spouse is thinking of leaving. Why do you guys think that that might be? Right? Do you know with absolute certainty why your spouse is wanting out? Or are you kind of blindsided? Are they saying, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I'm in love with my affair partner. I just want a divorce, right? What happens is that a lot of people, you like dive into solutions, right? Without taking time to plan or knowing what the real problem even is. And that is a huge mistake. Yeah, there's definitely something missing in the equation. Curtis shares, done giving away my chance to change. Okay. Yeah, she says she doesn't want to be hurt and doesn't trust that I'm ever going to change. So I get it. When your spouse is pulling away, it's terrifying. I've been there. I know what that feels like. And when you see that your marriage is in trouble, most of us, we want to do something about it, right? So we kind of just rush into action without even knowing if those actions are the right thing to do. Some examples of this are like trying to work on yourself. That's a very popular buzz phrase out there right now. Going to therapy, getting advice from friends, family members, pastors, reading self-help books, listening to podcasts, etc. I'm not saying any of these things are necessarily bad. In fact, some of them may be good, but the bottom line is you cannot risk getting this wrong. To me, my marriage is so important. I cannot risk the chance of getting it wrong. When I was going through cancer and I had an unborn baby to protect, I could not risk getting that wrong. I was given a 5% chance of survival. I couldn't risk getting it wrong. I had to get it right. So do not risk getting this wrong yourself. We have to get this right. Agreed? So the problem might not be your lack of effort or trying. You might be trying a lot. You might be exhausting yourself trying to work on yourself and meet their needs and do all these things and take all this advice that you've heard, right? The problem is that you're working really hard at applying a solution for the wrong problem. You may not actually know what's going on or even what the correct solution is. Now I gotta get my clicker to work. There you go. So the reality is that for most cases here, we need to have some better understanding of what's going on underneath the surface, underneath what your spouse is saying, underneath what they are doing, underneath the symptoms. Okay. So instead of trying to do it yourself, to try to guess at the solution and exhaust yourself with all these things that do not work, wouldn't it be great to know exactly what's going on in your marriage and what will work to have them want to be with you? Isn't your marriage important enough not to risk the chance of failing to get this right? Let me know in the chat. Is your marriage important enough to you to not risk the chance of failing to get it right? Isn't your marriage important enough to know that you did everything you could and that it was okay because you can live your life with no regrets? Absolutely. Very important. 100%. Yes, yes, yes. 100%. Definitely. Yeah. All right. I see all of them. Yes, it's important to me. Awesome. Trisha, Corey, Aaron, Diana, Kim, John, Hillary, Curtis. Thank you. Larry. Awesome. Isaiah. Beautiful. Amy. They're coming in. So what we do is a deep marriage assessment. This is why you have to know what's really going on. I want you to know it is not your fault that you haven't been able to solve this on your own. Almost no one can. That is why it is so important to have guidance from an expert so you know what will work and what will not. Similar to me with cancer, I had to know, is this treatment going to work or not, because I could not risk getting it wrong. You guys agree? Awesome. One of my favorite sayings, you cannot read the label when you are inside the bottle. And we are all inside the bottle of our own marriage. It takes someone from the outside, an expert, who knows how to read the label on your bottle, how to diagnose what's really going on here and prescribe the exact treatment plan that you need to get to the positive outcome that you want. All right. So let me know, do you want your marriage assessed by an expert? We offer a completely free marriage assessment where we read the label on your bottle, we diagnose what's really going on, and we prescribe the treatment plan that will help you get to the results that you want. So if you want that, let me know over in the chat, and I will put a link, and it's in the email of the replay for those watching the replay down below. And you can go ahead and book your free marriage assessment right there. And that is where we can go deeper into what's going on and give you an action plan and solutions to move you forward and explore if coaching with us is a good solution for you. All right, awesome. I see so many yes, yes, yes. CB, Diana, Kim, Larry, awesome. Norman, Isaiah, Corey, awesome. You guys got it. Beautiful. So in the assessment phase, we want to uncover what's really going on. We also are going to go deep into what we call your spouse's narrative. Your spouse has a belief about you and the marriage right now. This is the belief or story that your spouse has about you. They might be saying, you will never change. You've told me you changed in the past and you keep doing this. I'm done. It's over. They might be saying, I can't trust you. I'm not happy here. I don't love you anymore. I've lost the spark. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. So let me know in the chat, what is your spouse's narrative? This is a story that they've created about you and about the relationship, and they've built this story up over weeks, months, sometimes even years. And this story is serving them to either protect them from pain or as a justification or excuse for what they're doing. So they don't have to feel so guilty about what they're doing because they know that it's painful or destructive or unhealthy. So let me know in the chat what it is. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I'm still in love with you, but I'm done with our marriage. We're better as friends. I cannot share my heart. You're a cheater. You're abusive. I want out. She's unhappy, loves a fair partner, unsure if she can let go past trauma. I can't trust you. Yeah. I see all your stories coming in here about what your spouse is saying here. So my friends, you're not alone. All of us have a story about our partner and our marriage, and our spouse has a story about us and the marriage. And that is why it's really important that we understand what your spouse's narrative is. So remember that word, because I'm going to keep coming back to it, okay? Then in the assessment phase, not only are we going to uncover what the narrative is, but we're going to uncover the patterns. And the patterns are the behaviors, the cycles of behavior that you and your spouse are in. Right now, you're in a certain pattern with your husband or your wife. There's a certain way that you greet each other or you don't greet each other. There's a certain way that you react when they blame you, and you might get defensive and then they get defensive and it might blow up into a bigger thing. You might have a pattern of pulling away. They might have a pattern of stonewalling you. There's a certain pattern that you're in right now, a certain way that you continue to do this thing, okay? And so it's really important that we, on the outside, as the experts, identify what are the patterns going on, because these patterns stem from this internal narrative. And these patterns continue to reiterate the narrative. Now, once we shift these patterns, we call this a pattern interrupt, it's going to get your spouse's attention and help them let that story about you go. The way that we're going to let that story about you go and shift the negative narrative, the negative belief that they have about you, into a new positive story and belief about you, where they want to be in that relationship with you. They want to talk with you, right? They're going to flip the script and want to be with you. We do this through what we call home messages. This, again, is proprietary. It's developed by my partner, Mark Johnston, who is our head marriage coach. And these home messages is the message that you're going to keep coming back to. You're going to keep coming home to. This is the new story of our relationship. And I'll show you exactly how we do that with some examples in a little bit. But this process, understanding what's really going on, uncovering their narrative, uncovering the patterns, creating this home message, this is what will eventually change their story about you. And this is what we have to uncover first before we go into action with your spouse, because that's how we know what the real problems are. So we can give you real solutions that are going to work. In this way, you'll know that every action that you take, every conversation that you have, every text message that you send is going to be effective in moving your relationship forward. Sound good? In the assessment phase, we give you what we call our relationship restoration plan. Here is where we clearly identify what the problems are and what the correct solutions are. So we're going to clearly identify those problems and patterns. We're going to craft that home message to start to shift and change their story about you, and self-improvement steps that you can take right now to start to get your relationship going in that positive direction. After we have all that, we've given you the plan. We have the problems, we have the patterns, we have the action steps, we have the solutions. It's time to implement it. And this is where you get to go take those action steps and put it into your relationship. We're going to give you certain things in the assessment phase to test where you and your spouse are at. We're going to test how checked out are they really? Are they engaged at what level? Okay. We are constantly assessing your relationship so that we give you the proper solutions to move you forward. So how does this work in reality? I'm going to give you some real client studies here, some real client testimonials, some real client experiences, because I believe results don't lie. And I want you guys to see how this works in relationships very similar to exactly what you guys are going through. Okay. So this client shares, my husband has put back on his wedding band. I never knew how much I missed seeing that on his finger. And this is a woman whose husband was wanting a divorce, had a negative story about her. You are trying to control me. I feel like I don't have a voice in my own home. I want out, was his story. We showed her what the real problem was and how to change that story and that belief that he had about her so that he started to see her for who she really was, who she really is, right? Instead of that negative belief that was just kind of clouding his mind, causing him to want out, causing him to become addicted to the idea of divorce. Who here thinks that their spouse is addicted to the idea of divorce, right? I see some hands being raised. Yes, I think so too. Yeah, exactly. You're not alone. Our spouses can become addicted to this idea, and it clouds their thinking and they're not really acting like themselves. But the good news is, just like any person struggling with any kind of addiction, your spouse is still there underneath that addiction. We just have to help them move through that and come back to knowing who you are, seeing you for who you really are, and wanting to be with you. That's exactly what this client did. This one's kind of small. I'm going to try to zoom in. Oh, snap. Look at that. I'm not super tech savvy, so that was cool. All right. Monica shares, when he wants to work on a relationship marriage, we both agree we have a long road ahead of us to repair and grow from what brought us to the brink of divorce. I am hopeful for our future and grateful for the guidance and mindset help I've gotten through this course so far. This is the first time since last January that my husband has made any declaration that he's willing to try. All right, let's see if I can zoom back out without messing my slides up. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so after we've gone through the assessment phase and we know what the real problems are and we know what the real solutions are to those problems, we go to phase 2. And this, like I said, now that you have your plan, you have your action steps, you have your relationship restoration plan, your self-improvement plan. We're going to interrupt those patterns. We're going to start to shift this narrative. It's time to put it into action. As we put it into action, what's going to happen? What do you guys think? Your spouse is going to be resistant to those changes. Okay, that's why we have phase 2, which is where they're going to be resistant to this treatment plan. Just like as you're going into a medical procedure, there's always amount of discomfort and the body fighting the treatment plan in order to heal, okay, to get to the point of healing. So in phase 2, resistance, here we're actually going to embrace their resistance because it's part of the process. It's actually a good sign, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So let me know in the chat, on a scale of 1 to 10, how resistant is your spouse right now? 1 being like they're not resistant at all. They're totally willing to talk to you. They want to be with you. 10 being like they are not talking to you at all. And in the middle, we've got like, maybe they're like kind of being stubborn. They're digging their heels in. They might be hot and cold. Some of you are on that teeter-totter effect, right? Where they're hot and cold 1 minute, right? Some of you guys are going through some of that. 10 being they're completely blocked you, won't talk to you, haven't seen you in over a year, put a restraining order on you, okay? So let me know in the chat, how resistant is your spouse to you right now? How resistant are they to working on the relationship, to talking with you, to wanting to be with you? I'm seeing a 7, 5, 7-ish, 25. Okay. Some days, yes, you got some hot and cold going on. So much resistance. 6. He's communicating, but nothing about us. Yeah. All right. 7, 7, 7. Okay. Lots of 7s. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that. No less than 8 in general. Hot and cold for sure. Well, 8, she's focusing on talking about our daughter. Okay. So now I want to share with you what we call our push versus pull method. And these are some very common mistakes that most people make when their spouse is resistant to them. When your spouse is saying, I want out, I want a divorce, I'm having an affair, or you find out they're having an affair, or you're worried they're having an affair, any of those situations, okay? A lot of people give up. That's not you, because you're here. You may be tempted to, you may have those voices of doubt and fear, but you're here. Most people give up, which is why so many people end up getting divorced. They give up way too soon. Another big mistake, pushing for commitment or connection too soon, and that will backfire. Demanding that their spouse works on the marriage, demanding that they talk, demanding that they go to therapy, demanding that they honor their vows, demanding they do it for their religion, whatever, demanding that their spouse change. Manipulating. This can be obvious forms of manipulation or more subtle, passive-aggressive kinds of manipulation. By the way, I'll be the first to raise my hand and say, I've done all of these, okay? I've done all of these. Begging, pleading, acting out of desperation. Please don't go. Please give me another chance. I'm begging you. Please, 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 please. Sometimes we freeze out of fear. We don't know what to do. We're afraid of doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing, so we end up doing nothing. Blaming their spouse for everything or blaming themselves for everything. Over apologizing, taking too much accountability, too much responsibility, and excusing your partner and thinking that you can just take it all on yourself to somehow fix it that way. Let me know in the chat, which of these do you feel like you have made maybe in the past, or maybe you even are currently making some of these common mistakes. I've been pushing for connection. Yeah, close to all of them in the past, all of it. I've done all of them. Lots of comments coming in. Pushing for connection, except give up. Yeah, I haven't given up. I did all of them. LOL, freeze, blame myself, plead, truthfully, all of them. Yeah, pushing for connection. I thought about letting her go. Okay. Thank you guys for sharing that as well. So what we want to do is draw your spouse to you like a magnet and attract them back to you. And let me go back real quick if I can. When we're engaging in any of these very common behaviors, it's only going to push your spouse further away. It's only going to cause them to put their walls up. It's only going to deepen their grasp on the negative narrative that they have about you. So if you're doing any of these, or you have in the past, know that you're not alone, but these are never going to get your spouse back. And so what we want to do are some new things in some new ways to get some new results. That transformation, I promise you guys, I'm going to do everything I can. You have to step through the door and take action on it. But that's what we want to do, okay? Do some new things in some new ways, and you'll get new results. So when your spouse is having all this resistance to you, instead of trying to make your spouse be less resistant, tell them they shouldn't be so resistant, try to manipulate them to not be so resistant, try to, soften their resistance even. We're actually going to use their resistance to our advantage. Why? It's going to reveal a lot about where the relationship is at. Why are we even seeing so much resistance? We're seeing resistance because if the relationship has gotten to the point where there is consideration of leaving, then there isn't much trust in change. Resistance is there as a way for your partner to protect themselves. So we don't actually want to take that away right at this moment because they're not ready to let it go. So we're going to let them keep that self-defense, that protective measure right now at this stage, okay? So in the resistance stage, it's all about building up the idea that things could possibly be different. It's not meant to see immediate changes in the relationship right away, okay? It's not meant to get you and your partner back together right at this moment. It is, however, critical to creating some lasting healing. So what is the main focus of the resistance stage? It's the starting to build up of the new narrative. And we do this through communication and actions consistent with what you're trying to build for your relationship. So as you implement the plan that we create with you, the plan includes those action steps, self-improvement steps for yourself, and those home messages. Remember, those home messages are going to help create the new story and the new belief about you and the relationship for your spouse to help flip that script so they want to be with you. As you implement the plan, and we say, okay, Frank, Donna, Grant, Catriona, that's a beautiful name. It's time to go have this conversation. It's time to go implement this home message. Here's what we want you to do. What's going to happen? Even if you do it perfectly, your spouse is going to react negatively. They're going to react negatively. I almost guarantee it. If you're here on this masterclass because your spouse is pulling away, you go and take these first action steps. You go and bring this new home message to them and you're like, oh, it's so exciting. I've got this. I know I want to go in my marriage and I'm going to change the story that you have about me and you're going to want to work on it with me. They're going to be negative. It's going to be negative. Okay. And we expect that. So what happens is we go through what we call resistance cycles. We're identifying, ooh, they're really resistant to even talking about the relationship. Okay, what do we need to do here? How do we need to kind of tweak or modify the home message to fit where the relationship is at right now? Okay, cool. Now we know what to do here. We know exactly what to say and how to check that. Now we're going to deliver this home message. What was their reaction? Oh, we got resistance now at this level. Okay, now we know what to do. You guys see how this works? See how it's a cycle here where we're not just saying your spouse can't be resistant to anymore because they're going to react negatively. That's actually part of the healing process. So again, we're doing this through that new narrative where we're communicating the new home message and we're backing it up with actions consistent with what you're trying to build for your relationship. Now, I promised you I'd show you some examples of how to do this in real life. Okay, so let's look at one. Let's give an example and say, for the sake of this argument, right, that your spouse has this negative narrative here. And maybe their narrative is, you haven't been emotionally supportive of me for years. Insert whatever your spouse's narrative in, that's fine. All right. But let's say for this example that their spouse is saying, you haven't been emotionally supportive of me for years. I want a divorce. It's over, right? What we're going to help you do is create that home message, the new narrative. I am emotionally supportive of you. I respect you. I want to understand you. I am emotionally supportive of you. Then what we do is we have this both spoken to our spouse in natural ways, like not forced ways, but in natural ways. And then we back it up with our actions that would express empathy and validation. when your spouse expresses emotions. So your spouse is saying, I don't want to talk to you about the relationship. It's over. You should just move on. I can understand that this is really hard for you. I can understand that you're very upset about this. I would like to help support you in what you're going through. You know, that's a very different pattern to be in than maybe the pattern that this couple was in before, where they say, I'm done, it's over. And you just go into begging and pleading. You go into desperation. You go into, well, I'm making all these changes. They're like, I don't care, right? Or I don't believe the changes. This is where we take this home message and we back it up with action through those resistance cycles. And as you do that, even the fact that you're allowing your spouse to have resistance, what does that do? Can you guys imagine this? If someone's super resistant, if you're feeling super resistant, let's just say, and someone's like, it's okay. I understand, like it's okay to be resistant. Like, I understand, I can see that that's where you need to be, and I'm okay with that. What happens to the resistance you feel? It immediately starts to diffuse. Okay. So as we go through this process, what happens and why this actually works, initially, it's going to create what we call that pattern interrupt that gets your spouse's attention. So they consider the possibility of being happy with you. And over time, it shifts their old narrative about you from that negative one and the relationship where they're resistant to your changes to actually knowing that these changes are real and believing that new narrative. So they want to be with you. Now, where do most people normally get stuck here? Many people lose heart when their spouse doesn't respond immediately with positivity, right? You go and you say, you know, I am wanting to be emotionally supportive of you. And I can understand that you're uncomfortable here. I can understand that you're upset. And then what do your spouse normally do? They're going to up the ante even more. They're going to like go even more into negativity. They might shut down. They might get even more angry. They might stonewall you even more. Why? Because they're realizing that that narrative might not actually be true and they're scared to let it go. So we don't want them to let it go right now. We want them to keep that. But for your side of things, don't lose heart when things get ugly. Don't lose heart when your spouse doesn't immediately respond positively, because they're not going to at the beginning. So many people, like, we start making short-term changes, but we don't follow through long enough to demonstrate real change for the relationship. You might do it for a week or two, and then doesn't seem like it's working with your spouse because you just get more negativity. And so you give up and you think there's nothing you can do. It's not true. That's why it's vital that you follow through on the entire coaching process so that your spouse is naturally attracted to you again. So how does this work in reality? This client says, hi, Heather. Good morning. I just want to thank you guys for letting me join. I got some much needed insight with my coach yesterday, and my hope is at a 10. Believe it or not, but after just a short 2 weeks of taking off the pressure, she is coming around more so than she has in the last 12 months. Do you guys see how this works? Do you see how powerful this is? He had all this pressure he was putting on her, on himself, and on the relationship. And as he made this shift, allowed his spouse to keep the resistance, now she's coming around more so than in the last 12 months before that. All right, now let's go into phase 3. After we go through this resistance to the treatment and we go through these different resistance cycles, there's going to come a point in time where you want to go to stage 3, which is the pause button. The pause button is where we have your spouse agree to give you time. So a mistake that a lot of people make is trying to resolve deep issues too soon. That's kind of the traditional therapy model. Like, let's dig in here and find out, like, why did the affair happen? Why aren't you happy? Why won't you stay with me? And the reality is that your marriage isn't strong enough to handle root issues right now. And going into all of those is only going to deepen the gap between you guys. So it's kind of like an analogy I like to use here of a patient coming into the ER, okay? And this patient has a brain tumor and it needs to be operated on, okay? The brain tumor in this analogy is the root issues. It's the deeper thing that's causing the relationship to be unhealthy. But this patient with the brain tumor comes into the ER because he's in cardiac arrest. He's having a heart attack. So what do the surgeons do? Do they operate on the brain tumor or do they stop the cardiac arrest? No, they're going to stop the cardiac arrest, right? They're going to stabilize the patient first. And they're going to build some health and stability into the patient. And then when the time is right, then go operate on the brain tumor. And that's exactly what we will do with you as well. We need to build up some health and some stability in the relationship first before we go and resolve those deep root issues, okay? So in the pause stage, this is where we begin the process of balancing things out a little bit in the relationship and start making more requests from your partner, okay? Now remember, this is only possible if you're able to objectively point out that you have been making changes yourself because you've been following that relationship restoration plan and those action steps that we gave you, right? Otherwise, it's unlikely that you'll get any amount of cooperation. So at the beginning, you might have been thinking like, Heather, like you want me to do all this stuff and my partner's just going to have this negative story about me. And then as I make these changes, they're going to get worse. Like they're going to be more negative. That's not great. And I agree, it's not, but it is what's necessary to get to this point. So things are going to be a bit unbalanced at first, but as you help your partner to release that resistance and some of their fear, as we bring in some stability into the relationship, now it's the appropriate time to ask for some amounts of cooperation from your spouse. Sound good? So the pause stage is all about gaining some small amount of cooperation from your partner. This might look like a pause on the really intense arguments. Can we pause on that? Can we talk to each other respectfully, right? A pause on all the bitterness, a pause on moving out of the house potentially, and possibly a pause on the divorce arguments. So why don't we ask for more at this stage? Oh, I want to go back. Why don't we ask for more? Okay. Well, we want to make sure that the requests that you're making feel easy and safe for your partner to say yes to. We call this an acceptable arena. This is the area between you both that you can both agree on and your spouse can make some accommodation for. But if you ask for too much, if you push too much for connection or commitment, right, it's going to backfire. If you ask for too much, especially when there's been consideration of divorce, that may feel overwhelming for your partner who is wanting a way out. It can feel a lot less daunting or perhaps more considerate to simply put options to the side rather than eliminating those options completely. Putting an end to the divorce or agreeing to reconciliation should be much more of a natural thing that comes about because your partner is strongly desiring to do so. So we help you find those acceptable arenas which your partner will agree to. And as you both work in this acceptable arena, your partner will build up further trust in you and your relationship. And you'll be able to expand that into further areas at the proper time in the process, and then eventually resolve the root issues. So let me ask you guys, if I were to give you an assignment right now as your coach, and I were to say, I'm not saying this for real, but hypothetically, okay, if I were to say, I want you to go ask your spouse to pause on the intense arguments. I want you to go ask them to pause on the divorce. I want you to go ask them to give you 6 months of time. Would you know how to do that? Just be really real and honest with me. Let me know in the chat. No. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. No, not sure. Right. Most clients say, I have no clue how to do that. I have no clue how to do that. And would be afraid I would do it wrong. I'm afraid it would backfire. I'd afraid they'd pull away more, right? Or you tried it, like some of you are saying, and it didn't work at all. She's not ready yet. So what we do is we give you a script. We craft it with you and show you exactly what not to do when you're making this request of your partner, when you're asking for the pause, what to do to successfully ask for the pause, the what, the how, the when, and the where. So we give you the what, how, when, and where, what you're going to ask for, how you are going to ask them, when is it the right time to ask them, and where you're going to ask them, okay? And then we give you a list of possible responses and questions that your spouse might have. And we'll be so familiar with you and your spouse and the pattern that you're in, we'll probably be able to like really predict kind of this is how it's going to go. They might say, I'd like to, but I have some concerns. They might say, heck no. They might say, I don't see how this is going to be any different. They might say, well, where is this coming from? All kinds of different questions, all kinds of responses, and we'll guide you on exactly what to do with those. And we role play with you. We rehearse this ask conversation, asking for the pause, right? With you so that you are ready for the real thing. We always want to make sure that we give you everything so that you are ready for the real thing. So with Kim, she says, win tonight. My husband came and picked up the girls for his week with them. And we talked for almost 6 hours. We were both very open and honest. He wants to come back and work things out with me, but he's scared the changes won't be permanent. One step at a time here. This is literally the best program I have ever tried. Thank you, Mark and Heather. And so this is exactly what she's doing. She's taking the pressure off. She's changing some of the patterns. She made the ask. And now he said he wants to come back and work things out. Is he done with his fear and resistance? No. And that's okay. It's going to be part of the process. And that's exactly what we do. All right. Now, after we go into the ask, we go into healing cycles. Okay. Phase 4 is where we go into these healing cycles to restore the relationship fully. So what happens here is you're going to do the ask. We're going to guide you on the what, when, how, where, why, all of those, right? And as we do the ask, we are going to ask, where is your spouse at right now? And what type of spouse do you have at this point? Because you're going to fall into normally one of 4 categories. Okay. So we're constantly assessing the health of the relationship, the stability of the relationship, the level of resistance that your spouse has, the level of communication that you have. Again, why? So that every action that you take, every word that you say, you know, is moving you forward. Even if they're being more negative back, we know it's still moving you forward. At the point where we give the ask, though, we're going to do this assessment. Which of these 4 primary categories is your spouse going to fall into? Are they going to be in reconciliation? Are you ready for that? Free reconciliation, where maybe they have some hesitant to action, but they actually have a positive belief about you? Are you in the slowing down phase, where maybe they have still some negative actions, but they actually have a positive belief about you? This might be some of that hot and cold. They're starting to slow things down. They're starting to warm up to you a bit. They're on that teeter-totter effect. Are they in resistance still? This is where they have negative actions and a negative narrative about you. Or is it unsalvageable? This is very, very rare to ever fall into this category at this point, but we still have solutions even if you do. It's not truly unsalvageable. It just means there's more that we have to do as far as dealing with their resistance. So we're going to determine which of these types is your spouse in at this point in the relationship, and then go into what we call these healing cycles. That's where we identify what is the resistance, what is any of the negative action or the negative narrative that is still remaining in the relationship. And then we go in with the home messages to shift that narrative, to shift that belief that they have about you. We deliver that home message and then we reassess and we continue to up level. So if you're here at the resistance stage, this is where most of our clients are between these 2 stages. Some are up here. Very few are down here. Most land in the orange. So I'm going to give you an example of that in a minute. Okay. And we're going to up level you through these different healing cycles until you get up here to the top where you're fully reconciled. Okay. Is that making sense? Cycling through the bottom 3. Yep. You're in between. Awesome. Okay. So let's say, I just wanted to give you guys an overview because this is like totally proprietary. This is our actual entire process after we go through these 4. So these 4 then branch off into these different levels of reconciliation, and we move you through each one, spiraling upward. Okay. So that's kind of the overview of how this process works. It's incredibly custom to where you are at in your relationship. So let's say that, like most of our clients, a vast majority of them, you're in the orange. And that's where, let me zoom in on this. You have a spouse that is slowing down. They have some negative action, but maybe they are starting to see some of the changes about you, but maybe they're still doubting them, right? Like our client I just shared, Kim, her husband, right? He wants to work on the relationship, but he's still kind of doubting the changes. He's still doubting if he can really be happy there. He's still doubting, can I really trust this situation, right? So then what we're going to do is, like, how determined is the spouse to continue separation or divorce? Are they very determined, somewhat determined, or a little bit determined, right? If they're just a little bit determined and they're kind of going more towards you, then we're going to continue to build trust, keep working on the home messages, keep the pressure low. Did we take sufficient time to build trust? Let me zoom out a little bit. Yes, we did. Okay, awesome. Let's reevaluate. No, we might need more time to build some trust. Now we're really at a place where it's the appropriate time to resolve root issues, to heal past pain, to heal past trauma, to make sure the relationship is really heading in a good direction. Now let's say that they're in the hot and cold, because I saw some of you guys, it looks like a war plan. That's so funny. I've never heard that, but sure. Yeah, I guess it kind of is. But we really are like, we are prepared and know exactly what to do, no matter where your spouse falls in any of these situations. So I saw some of you like, my spouse is hot and cold. We've got kind of that teeter-totter effect. So if they're somewhat determined, they're kind of like taking maybe some steps towards divorce or separation or their affair partner, but then they come back to you and they're hot and they're warm, right? A lot of clients fall into this place. So have we tried backing off for a few weeks? Yes. Okay. Well, then they're going to go over here, right? And then expectation for backing off, working on improvement, back off for 2 to 4 weeks. Is there affair going on, right? We have this entire process on what to do. How stable is the affair? Somewhat stable, not stable at all. What kind of healthy boundaries do we need to put in place? What do we need to do to protect the client, make the affair uncomfortable while building connection? Did this stop the affair? Yes, no, right? So I hope you guys are catching the picture of how this works, because this is kind of behind the scenes. In fact, we used to not even share this, especially on like a first masterclass with like this. But I was like, we've got to show people that no matter where you are at, we've got the game plan. We know exactly where to take you from there. And we're constantly having these feedback loops. We're constantly assessing, where is the spouse at? What needs to happen now? And what is the next step that you need to take to ensure that your relationship is moving forward? Again, how does this work in reality? We have thousands and thousands of client testimonials and client success, because this is radically different. I hope you can see that by now. And if not, I encourage you to go check out our website, iThriveCoaching.com. You will see all of these on here. You will see them on our YouTube channel and the videos that they've shared. I'm going to highlight just a few. This one is Jason. Jason says, you were a turning point for us. I learned how to work on myself and to truly understand her. And now she's back with me and we're doing better than ever. Our kids are so happy and we're grateful to you. These ones melt my heart, because to see families restored and children with parents that love each other and are providing that good home secure base means like everything to me. That's why I do this. Scott did an interview with us. If you want to check it on our podcast, it's also on our YouTube channel, Scott Murray. I really didn't believe this would work for me. That's so true of so many of our clients. My wife was dead set on divorce last December. We tried so many things. I thought it was over. So what the heck? There's nothing to lose in trying. Right away, I saw progress, and that created positive momentum for us, to the point now where she's moved back home and wants to be with me, and they are doing better than ever. Carlos, huge win. She drove an hour to come see me and tell me that she loves me, and we will all live under one roof again. God works in mysterious ways. We are still, a little bit of typo though, we are still going to work on both of us being better people, but I am ecstatic. I have my best friend back. All right. So my friends, if I can get my slide to click here. There we go. What we learned today. We learned you cannot guess at what will work. You must know what will work. And this can only be done properly through a deep marriage assessment, where we read the label on your bottle, we diagnose what's going on, and we prescribe the right treatment plan to get you where you want to go. We learned that resistance is normal and expected. So let's use it to your advantage so that we can interrupt the pattern between you and start to create that positive narrative about the relationship that your partner is both going to accept and believe. We learn that problems must be resolved in the correct order. You must hit the pause button with your spouse so your relationship can become strong enough to resolve root issues. You've seen that you must have a treatment plan specific to your marriage to successfully stop divorce and attract your spouse back to you. Flip that script so they want to be with you. That is the key to saving a marriage. So now, my friends, you have two options. You can A, go on your own and keep trying to do it by yourself, or B, get our expert help. If we decide to work together, we will do this. We will do that marriage assessment so you know what problems you need to solve and how to solve them. With expert one-on-one guidance, we'll show you what to text them, how to have in-person conversations, and what steps to take so your efforts don't keep backfiring and you see that positive momentum, like Carlos mentioned, in your marriage. We will craft a new positive narrative that will demonstrate to your spouse with action that these changes are real. So they will trust the changes and believe that new narrative. They will see you in a new light and love you and accept you for who you really are. That's what I want in my marriage, that my husband sees me for who I really am, and that I know that I'm safe, that I'm accepted for who I really am, flaws and all. And boy, I've got lots, but he loves me and accepts me for who I really am. And I know that's what you want with your spouse. So we'll help you get there. And to solve problems in order so that you know that every action you take with your spouse is moving you in the right direction. So I want you to imagine how amazing you will feel to know exactly what to do to have them come running after you, begging to be with you. And imagine what a relief it will be to have a step-by-step plan that takes all the guesswork out of it, the mistakes you will suffer if you try to do it alone. No more crying, overanalyzing, ruminating, worrying, stressing, beating yourself up, losing sleep, begging them, and crying even more. No more of that. Just a sweet, easy feeling of peace, knowing that you have now rekindled the romance between you and you get to spend the rest of your lives together in security, ease, and passion, just you and them together forever. So my friends, what is that worth to you? On a scale of 1 to 100, how important is saving your marriage to you? Put it in the chat. I want to hear it. I want to know how important is saving your marriage to you. Oh my goodness, you typed that so fast, Corey. That was like a million. Hillary, 100, Kim, 100, John, 100, Curtis, 200, AJ, 100, Larry, 110, Zoom user, 100, Eduardo, CB, 100, Donna, so important, 100, Brian, 100, Isaiah, 1,000, Joey, 1,000. Beautiful, awesome. I love that. I can feel your energy. I can feel your commitment to getting there. So the next step is simply to book your free marriage assessment with us. This is where we're going to diagnose what's really going on in your marriage, so you aren't left guessing. Remember, we're going to read that label on your bottle. We're going to show you what the next steps are, prescribe the right treatment plan. We're going to diagnose exactly what's going on and explore if coaching is a good fit. Now, note, we do not accept everyone, and spots are extremely limited. So in this assessment, we will answer all the questions that you have. I know you still have questions, and that's okay. Lean into that, but listen to that voice inside of you that says, I need to do this. I need to know I gave my marriage everything that I could so that you can live your life with absolutely no regrets. So I put the link over there in the chat to book your free marriage assessment with us. Spots are limited and they are filling up very, very fast. So make sure that you book your call right away. You guys on the masterclass with me live, you get in before everyone else. There's like what, 40-ish people on live. I'm going to send this replay out to over 60,000 people tonight. So if you want to get in, make sure you book your call right away. So you know exactly what you need to do to move your relationship in the right direction. So I cannot wait to see your marriage thrive. I can't wait to hear your story of how your spouse went from being so checked out, you thought it was hopeless, but you listened to what was inside of you saying you needed to do this. You took those action steps, you listened, you followed the treatment plan, and you got to that happy result where your marriage is now restored and healthier than ever before. So I honor you and I thank you for coming today. My heart, my love, my appreciation flows out to you. And I truly cannot wait to see your marriage thrive. Look forward to talking to you all again very soon.